Today we are making hamburger roll-ups.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful, delicious brown gravy from scratch. For this recipe, or any reason why you would need brown gravy. Beef gravy, to be exact. So that's a half a cup of butter we melted in a pan. Then you're going to add half a cup of flour. Half a cup of butter, half a cup of flour, and you're going to want to mix that up. Let that heat up real good. Okay, so that's been boiling for a while. You got to keep stirring it. It's changing color a little bit. So now we're going to add 4 cups of water. I start with that. You might need a little more. But you need to stir. Stir. Make sure all of that flour is thoroughly incorporated. Alright. Checking the edges. And you'll just bring that to a boil. So while we are waiting for our gravy to boil and thicken, which it's already starting to, we are going to boil or fry a pound of hamburger. And I like to put a little garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of salt, and fry that up until it's brown. That gravy's coming along nicely. You have to keep stirring or it'll stick to the bottom. Keep an eye on that. Hamburger, almost done. For those of you who cannot afford super lean ground beef like me, after the frying's done, I'm going to get rid of all of that grease. But grease is where the flavor is. So for what we're making, I don't like my hamburger chunks. We don't want them to be too big. So I like to take a potato masher and just mash it up. It'll make it into nice little pieces. Okay, so that might look strange, but I like to pile the hamburger on one side and lean my pan on something so that all the grease falls down into one spot. I mean, you could just spoon it out. You don't have to do this way, but that's just kind of a trick I use. Just before your gravy comes to a complete boil. See that thick that's getting? Nice. You're going to want to put in your seasoning. Now you can use bouillon cubes or whatever you use for your beef gravy, beef flavoring. So I like to use this Better Than Bouillon soup base. And unlike the bouillon cube, which is boiled down to a paste and set out to dry and then formed into a cube, this is left in paste form. And it doesn't have all the added salt, and it just blends in nicely and easily. And I'll start with 2 tablespoons. And then mix thoroughly. You know, they have turkey, beef base, chicken. They even have a vegetable one. You know, when you make a turkey for Thanksgiving, you'll just use the turkey juice as the fat. Oh, and you don't have to use butter. You could use margarine. I just like to use butter because it gives it a richer flavor. almost to boiling there. So now we've drained all the grease. I've got this can I keep in the freezer that I put old grease in. Just put it back in the freezer, and then when it's full, then I throw it away. You know, what do you do with the grease in your pan? I got this little trick I like to use. Okay, our gravy is come to a boil. Look at that yummy thick gravy. If you like it thicker, use less water. If you like thin gravy, use more. Alright. Now we got our hamburger fried. This is where you would add your can of vegetarian vegetable soup. Now, when I became a poor housewife, I had to figure out how to make my own without the can. So I have boiled peas and carrots and hamburger. Or I mean, potatoes. And this is more than one can because my kids and husband love this meal, so I'm doubling the recipe. 1.5. I'm 1.5ing it, I would say. And since, you know, your can of soup would come with a little bit of gravy, we're going to pour some of this gravy we just made into our hamburger and vegetables. Not too much, just a little bit. We'll mix that up. And set that to the side for a minute. You're going to want to keep a bunch of gravy for the end, of course. Now we need to make the biscuits. Okay, now it's time to make our biscuits. You can use biscuit. That's great. That's what I used to use till I found this great buttermilk biscuit recipe. And so I use that now. Any biscuit recipe will do. Like I said, this is a big recipe. Not like I'm 1.5ing it instead of just one time. If you'd like my buttermilk recipe, put it in the comments below and I would be happy to share it with you. But look, you get to play with your food. How is this not fun? So now that our biscuit dough is ready, it should be pulling away from the bowl. Now we're going to roll this out on our cutting board. If you don't have a cutting board, you can use a table or a cupboard, whatever you have available. Spread out some flour. And then put some flour on your rolling pin. And I like to flip it a couple times on the board with flour. Makes it stick less, it seems. Now we're just going to roll it out. You're going to roll this out from 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. There. Now we're looking for more of a rectangular shape, not so much round. That seems to be about the right thickness right there. Now you're going to take this hamburger mixture. You're just going to spread it on your biscuits. Alright, we're just going to spread this out as even as possible. Not all the way to the edges, and you'll see why. Okay, then we start rolling. Since this is so large, I have to just go from one side to the other. Okay, here is our roll. We're going to pinch the end of the roll a little bit. It doesn't have to be great. So you're going to want to cut these about an inch. Of course, the end's going to be kind of little. Because your gunk is going to want to come out when you're cutting, you gotta. I prefer to put something. Did I spray that? Lightly spray your pan. Then you put your roll-ups on there. You have a thin knife. It's a fillet knife, but you know, it's really thin, and it seems to do the job pretty good without ruining too much. It's kind of messy. And then you just kind of put it into a circle, or you can also try the string method. You slide a piece of string underneath. Try to find an inch. You cross it. Line it up here. And go boop, just like that. Isn't that pretty? So this is the recommended way. But if you don't have any thread, cutting it is fine. But again, this is less messy and more accurate. Here's our hamburger roll-ups. Gonna put them in the oven, 450 for 15 minutes. All right, so that's what we're looking for. A nice golden brown.
Okay, your standard batch of roll-ups should yield 12 to 18, depending on how thick you cut them. Beautiful. So, that's hamburger roll-ups. This recipe has a lot of stages, but it's worth it.